I mean, the classic story of you drive into a little small town and you see two um two barbershops, one that has a terrible handmade sign and one that's got the fanciest sign ever. Which one do you go to? You probably go to the one with the terrible sign, right? Like they spend all of their resources doing good haircuts. The other one's like
Right.
more of a commercial appeal, the advertising. So it doesn't mean, a great logo doesn't mean it's a better comic. It's just
You want to do the intro?
sure.
All right, go ahead.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Turbo Pit Fighter, the making of. I'm Jake Jacobs, the penciler,
I'm Kurt
and
Brugel, the inker.
right on. And we are working our way through this wonderful science fiction comic. We welcome anybody to join us on our journey while we shoot the breeze and draw. And we're working towards a graphic novel eventually, but this is how it goes, bit by bit, blow by blow, page by page, panel by panel, and we're just making the thinking very transparent here, documenting this as we do our little weekly video podcast production. So welcome.
Yes, welcome. So the
So what's
first
new?
thing I'd like to talk about is both of us this week made uh, logo designs for Turbo. You actually made the original, which was just a sketch, and then episode one, I just sort of inked it up as we were just introducing ourselves and the whole making a comic book podcast on YouTube. And I did receive some critiques, if you will, criticisms of not being that legible. So I last week got up with a couple of ideas and made an attempt, and then you made a response and actually gave us another version. So let me share mine first, and let me hit this here share screen. We can kind of make comments about it, and then I will show off yours. So here we go. There you are. So this is my second version of your original um, drawing
Mm-hmm.
design,
Mm-hmm.
and I just inked it up, moved some blacks around, and then hand colored another plate as I've been playing around with to then bring into Photoshop, pump up the colors to a real brightness, and then through a color halftone filter through Photoshop just to give it that classic comic book look.
The,
Um,
the
it
dots.
reads, yeah, the old dots, Ben Days from printing. It reads nice. I'm also, from the original design, um, curious about what it would look like on a t-shirt. So that
Yeah.
was one of the things too that I'm kind of looking at on a merchandising level. But
Yeah.
having been the originator on this sketch, Jake, how do you feel about it now, in this new version?
It's fine. I mean, it's got a rough hewn look to it. It's a little bit graffiti-ish. It's a little bit angular. I like the fist. The fist looks like it's coming at you. Um, and you could play with the colors. I know these are like the primary colors, except the blue's a little bit lighter. Um,
Hmm.
and I think the eventual permanent logo will probably have like more of a considered color scheme. Um, and it's definitely good for now. I think before we publish, we'll have a logo that I probably spend days on, but uh, these are like spending minutes on or hours maybe. But um, when I did mine, I just recorded it, the making of, so I could
Yeah.
animate it and speed it up, and um, I time so you can see how much time it took, and so mine took 40 minutes. Um, and you'll show that next. The only criticism I might have about this logo, other than playing around with different color combinations, is the bottom of the R. It's kind of hitting those spikes, and I know you're making room for the spikes, but I
Right.
think that maybe the bottom of the R should just avoid the spikes, just so people don't think it's a cut off B, because
Oh
that
yeah.
would
Ubo.
that would that
Tubo.
would that would bring us to Tubbo Pit Fighter, which
Tubbo.
is more of a kind of fetish oriented version. I think that'll be coming out
Good
later.
catch.
Yeah.
Good catch. Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, so that
Cool.
that one's fine. I mean, even having like, the first one and the second one, it's like when you look at that page that has the evolution of Coca-Cola logos, and you can see
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
changed over the years. So we'll have
yeah.
that. Except ours
Well,
won't.
as a process in making a comic book, usually the first, if not, well, the first thing you do is you go to the art store and you buy 200 to $1,000 worth of art supplies. The second thing you do, and this is all because you do have the idea, of course, right? You're going to do your comic book and it's this type of character stuff. You have got to make the logo.
Yeah.
And so some comic books don't ever get beyond the logo because it can be very, very challenging because it doesn't meet the individual artist expectation. And there's the amount of frustration that seizes upon it. So we're definitely, as we're showing off our process and making a comic book, this being a part of that process, um, is going to be in a constant state of process. I'd also like to add before I show your newer version,
Uh-huh.
um, we're, we have a bunch of hashtags we're using in order to gain some viewership, some attention. And one of the last two that I posted was post-apocalyptic and romance comic.
Right.
So when I take those two phrases and I look at this, I say, no. So it does not have a sci fi feel, and it obviously does not have a romantic feel to it. So that'll be something as we're also hammering through the pages, something that will then tell us when we're completing pages and getting out beyond more than just where we're at. Um, just information to tell us, what would make a better
Yeah, I mean
logo.
I think the shortcut, what you're saying is like, what does the logo say about the series? What information does it give you if you're just looking at a t-shirt, or if you're just looking at the logo? And
Hmm.
that's why I did that silhouette version that I made. It gives you a little bit more information about the character. Um, and this logo doesn't even say that there's a female lead. It doesn't say sci-fi. The only thing it really says is violence, right? There's going to be violence, and it's turbulent, violence, and maybe the angular nature of it, alludes to the chaos in the story and of all the violence. But yeah, if you want to show the other one, we can.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do another refined version of this week, and so be able to show that off on Instagram. But yes, here's yours. That's come up. Yep, here you go. So you want to talk a little bit about yours?
Yeah, so I wanted to get like the silhouette of the character in to show that it's a female character, a strong female, and so
Okay.
that definitely comes across. I wanted to make her hands dripping with blood, which alludes to the violence. I think
Hmm.
I think it might need some work. Like some people might think these are like Wolverine claws, and so I need at least
Hmm.
one drip to go all the way to the ground. So I'll probably just extend that. The lettering I just kind of did like in one shot, and when I get this on the computer, there's a million ways to play around with it. The lettering below, the lettering above, the lettering in front,
Hmm.
overlapping. Um, also when I did the little fist inside the O, um, I use kind of like clunky markers that could probably be cleaned up, but that also just gets you from the old logos to the current logo, and it's an evolution. I'm not in love with the lettering here, but it was definitely stitching it out quickly.
Yeah, the only thing was is when I immediately saw it, it took me a second to recognize the figure as Turbo. The silhouette, because I'm working on the comic, I have a good understanding for her body and everything. The from the head to shoulders part, I think, is a little too helmet-like.
Okay,
Like it doesn't feel like
like
hair,
Juggernaut.
and it kind of yeah, a little bit. I was even thinking Sasquatch from Alpha Flight.
Right.
But but then the second thing I then thought was, what about the striping in her t-shirt? So that being an element, a graphic element
Oh
to
yeah,
help bring
yeah. We could
recognition,
definitely pull that up.
recognition.
Yeah,
And she also, her hair is usually falling in her
yeah,
face. So sometimes we're not seeing eyes, but we do see a nose and a mouth.
yeah,
So there might be maybe something of a graphic there to bring in. But I think as we keep coming up with versions and getting happy with them, maybe at that time, and then getting a more updated version, these would be awesome classic um, t-shirt designs that our hardcore fans, the Turbo Knots, would be acquiring because they would want to show off that they were there in the beginning and everything. So,
yeah, yeah.
there's no harm, no foul in this.
No, yeah,
We don't have to die on this hill. And we also would say to others, like, be fluid with it. Try different things out. Put it out there for a while. Listen to the folks that are following you, and see if they even say anything.
right. Yeah,
So,
this could definitely be a limited edition variant eventually. We'll get it right.
yeah,
Um, a
sure.
funny story about one of my favorite bands, the Misfits, punk band. Um, I first picked up their cassette because they had the coolest logo in the world. They had
Hmm.
that Crimson
There you
Ghost
go.
skull that everybody has a kid in their high school, wearing like, dark, gothic look and a Misfits t-shirt. So I picked up the cassette and I listened to it. I got into the music, and that's an example. My band too. Like my band is our t-shirt is a lot more popular than our band. We and so logos are very important, and we'll get it right. We will take time. I mean, we
Yeah.
have experience not only in comics but also like graphic design. I mean, you can look here at some logos and see like they didn't even bother. They just typed it out. That some of these, this is a reissue. Here you have like a logo of a indie comic publication, and maybe they thought this was cool, but you can't hardly read it. I think it's Circle Rocket Publications. They just
Yeah, Jake, are you showing the logo up in the top left-hand corner?
yeah. I don't know if it's too
Yeah,
shiny or
okay.
something, but yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah, that's really
it's
hard to read.
awful.
Oh,
It's
okay,
awful.
I could
And
see it.
this is actually
Yeah,
a Frank
yeah.
Runner comic, so it isn't like this is.
Whoa, I've never
I know
seen that one
we
before.
see that later, but you know, um,
Whoa, teasing, you're
I was flipping
teasing.
through some indie comics, and you know, some of these logos are just like a font, or they're very like here, this one, AC Femforce. This is just a
Yep.
font. There's no real design here. And then you have this. This is really, a very well considered logo.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
but
Yep.
sometimes they don't use it. Sometimes I think they're trying to look for like a Marvel parody look here on this one. So this is also kitchen sink press, and they only took like the little faucet, and the rest is just a font. It just this is literally like comic font or whatever they call. So you know logos are big. Here's Valiant's. logo, and they have the little orienteering star or whatever you call it. It's kind of like a V over like a directional star, navigation star. But the Valiant is just a font. I mean, give me a break, There's just you're typing out a font. So, and you want your logo to be instantaneously recognizable, to set you apart. Here's another one. Oh, this is the one I saw. This has got to be the worst one ever. Um, right. So look, and this is great art, right? This comic, this com,
Yeah, I
yeah,
have
this is
that one.
Michael
Yeah.
Thibodeau, right? Wasn't he an inker for
Yep.
Kirby? Right, and
Yep.
so and he look at his pencils and inks and colors all together. It's great art, good style, good flow. This is a total indie production with full colors and everything, right? Look at that. It reminds you of Dave Stevens, and it reminds you of, some classic, like maybe even Frazetta-ish influences. But you know, this logo is totally an afterthought, right? This says the last of the Viking heroes. You cannot even read this word, the last of the, and then his logo is like, oh, my comic company is called Genesis West. So he drew a little GW, which you can barely make out with these little chrome looking things, and then he just typed it out in a font. He didn't kern it. This comics doesn't even fill the space. You get tons and tons of critiques of this, but it doesn't have to be a great logo to be a great comic. It's just if you're trying to build a company and a brand name, put some time into it. I mean, the classic story of you drive into a little small town and you see two um two barber shops, one that has a terrible handmade sign and one that's got the fanciest sign ever. Which one do you go to? You probably go to the one with the terrible sign, right? Like they spend all of their resources doing good haircuts. The other one's like
Right.
more of a commercial appeal, the advertising. So it doesn't mean, a great logo doesn't mean it's a better comic. It's just, it's just more of a,
Well, there's so many comics in the past that had awesome covers, and then when you bought it, because you're just going through the bins or whatever, and you're picking out stuff, and you get home, and then you get to, oh man, this cover is so awesome, and then you crack it open, and it
yeah,
just
right.
sucks. It
Yeah. And
just sucks.
I think research shows
So
that 75% of the decision is the comic and is the cover. And so, and Stan Lee knew
yeah,
that very well. He used to have them redo the covers over and over until it was just right. I mean, yeah, sometimes there's really good covers. They get a totally different artist. They get a painted artist, but when you buy it, anything goes on the inside. How many times did I buy a great Marvel team up with a Gil Kane cover only to find it was Sal Buscema inside, you know, and
yeah.
or Don Perlin or somebody like that, the backbenchers, and that's business. That was the whole thing about Marvel Comics before they were Marvel Comics. There was Martin Goodman's company, and there was Timely Comics, and all these different made-up names of shell companies, and it was all just hype. And then when you get in, might have a nice story, might not, but you're basically buying the cover, you're buying based on the cover. So, what you want to go over what you're working on there? What panel you're on?
I am just finishing up page. Da, da, da. This is
Uh-huh.
page 13. I'm about ready to move over, so I'm at that
Mm-hmm.
80%. One of the things that I was just, because this has been about a week since I've come back to this page, but this panel itself, I think one of the challenges I'm going to have is I really like the effect the background's having with the cow, this explosion, but I'm going to really darken in, um, obviously back here to kind of push this forward. But one of the things I recognized was sort of this, the way the bar counter and the floor just sort of shake. So then I'm probably even end up giving her like almost like a silhouette blackout an effect to just really accentuate the Kapow
Hmm.
explosion. So, but then as the story moves along, you know, Trophy's being hustled away with the radioactive peas.
Right.
Um, you know, Turbo's, escaping it's all the fire flip. She grabs the guy who's got Trophy. It's going to be a tangle. Um, uh, and then I have page um, 14. But here's a
Hmm.
question for you. I just noticed once and this is super like detailed technical. So here's page 14, the guy that's on the back of the truck. So let me see if I can get that. You can see him in the back of
Right.
the truck there, right? All right. Now there's this like right here. Okay, right here. There's like this kind of like coiling thing. Now is that this whip
Oh,
that the guy on the back of the truck has when he jumps off, or is that some other kind of detailed object? I've left it blank right now, um, but I have this feeling I should add basically that coiled whip
yeah.
in his
You're
hand
talking about in the first
right
panel on
here,
page
right?
14. Oh, you talk.
Yeah, well, he
Oh
leaps off.
yeah,
Yeah, this is panel 3 of
that's a great
13
catch on the
is the
previous
guy,
page. He's got it like coiled up on his waist. Yeah.
right? Right? But
Yeah.
it's his
Yeah.
on its hip, right? Right? Can I move? I'm going to move that
Sure.
actually
Why
into his
not?
hand.
Yeah, that works.
Is that fine? Because I did not put it there in here. And then of course I'll be playing around effects wise because this is obviously an electrified uh,
Right.
laser
Laser
whip.
whip. There you go.
So it's just
The electrified laser
laser
whip. I
whip.
think that's my new
But
band
he
name. um. Yeah.
so all right. But yeah, I'm moving along. So I'm getting up to that 80% on page 13, and then hop
Right.
over to
I
14.
do want to make a I do want to register a preference. I see some of the stuff that you're doing,
Okay.
and one thing I try to shy away from is cross hatching. I like hatching, and I like directional hatching, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes like angled hatching where like the hatching is maybe like going
Hmm.
this way, and then it also like goes a little bit in, but cross hatching where it goes like degrees across, this kind of gets me because I like reserving that for
Hmm.
like clothing like flannel shirts and like window screens and
Like
like
a
radiator
pattern.
grills and stuff like that. And then when we're shading, characters, I like to make it just like contoured shading, like the direction of the object itself. And sometimes, you want to make it darker, so I usually just go in the same direction rather than, cross hatching. So I noticed that a couple of spots, mostly backgrounds. So
Right.
no biggie. And then,
Yep. Yeah, up here you can see it, which is I have it here. Now, this is going to get more, this will get darker, you can kind of see how I get over here on that. But here, I, the effect is, in, from my perspective, as I'm doing this, is just starting to show through, which was, I didn't want anything to feel
uh-huh,
solid in this panel. So it's almost like the counter is vibrating
right,
and shaking, and the ground is as well. But then I wanted to uh, uh, move the eye kind of to a blocky form. So that's where then I just started ending. I edited in because all the lines were going this way. and then I started plopping them in here just to kind of create more of a solid form. So there's nothing saying that I can't bring in like white or even another line to do hatching, for shadows and stuff. But I want to keep this thing kind of feeling like
Right.
it's literally raised off
Are
the
those like
ground
bullet holes
because of the
previous,
explosion.
or are those happening right there in real time? Oh, they're
They
already there.
were,
All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
when she was getting shot up.
Okay. Yeah. So
Hmm. Hmm. Because the guys come in, and they're just that's
right.
there's still two guys that are
The clips.
emptying their clips
Righto.
into.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
so I'm kind of in
All
a different
right.
place. I just ended up where the guy smashed through the window, and then Turbo clocked him and knocked him out of the scene. And so now I'm coming to the next page. I'm looking at my thumbnails. They're like they're kind of vague, but I can make it out. We're gonna have this this marauder guy jump on Turbo from above and put her in like a headlock momentarily, and then she's gonna flip him into
Whoa.
oblivion over here, and then but there's another guy right there next, and then he's gonna come in, and this is where he does take out the driver, um, and she's real close to him, and then here we will have Trophy Girl, like the onlooker, shocked and amazed, like, oh my. Um, so then there's that, and then I'm gonna have these little three split panels where she's. It's a little unclear here, but nobody's on the steering wheel. I use this for scrap paper. Uh, um, nobody's on the steering wheel, and she's Trophy's got to take the wheel. Um, and Turbo's got the guy already in a headlock. And sorry, I did my cross-hatching thing here. Um, and so yeah, she'll point to the wheel, like get the wheel. This or else this whole van is gonna go off the road. And so that's what I'm gonna be penciling out now. And then I was thinking about, like, boy, I have this really unclear here. Turbo is punching the next guy, and then yeah, and so then I drew um, a Trophy will be here. So these are kind of like cramped panels, and this might be bothering me. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably move this all up, and then get a little more vertical on these panels just to give it some more space. And this will also give some room for word balloons. Take the wheel, and um, here we'll see. So in order to take the wheel, she's just gonna have to dump all those eggs out the window. I didn't really think about that sequence. The tumble wire eggs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what
Trophy
about
is
so
right.
take the wheel. What about the eggs? And she'll just say, dump them now, or or we're,
All of them.
we'll crash, right? Or we're done. Yeah. Or we're toast. There you go.
We're
There you
toast.
go. Um. So and then we're gonna see. So Trophy does take the wheel here, and there is violence happening, and then is the very next page is when they're going to throw a Molotov cocktail of some sort. Sure,
Ice cream Molotov cocktails.
right.
Ice cream
So
flavored.
here will be.
We were at the grocery store yesterday, and I don't want to call out the manufacturers, but
Uh-huh.
they have,
But
like,
this.
remember the old freezer pops?
Mm,
They now have hard
right.
hard seltzer freezer pops. So if this ice cream truck in the future after the apocalypse is hustling alcohol beverage
Well, I don't
based
think that
ice
they're
cream.
actually an operational ice cream truck at that late post-apocalyptic.
They couldn't have like a little
Yeah, I think the
freezer that just had them
post-apocalyptic.
left over.
I think the apocalypse knocked out all the ice cream. But yeah, we're yeah. So there'll be where am I? I'm losing my spot here. A little punching or destruction here, where Turbo like really just manhandling these guys. No pun intended. And I don't know, maybe I can make this the same panel if we just kind of turn the angle around. Yeah, maybe I like this better as one panel. So then I'll just flip her around. So if she's facing this way, now she's got to be facing the other way, and she'll just pile drive the guy into the ground. Right? She really just makes quick work of these guys. Right? They're just like disposable straw characters. But well, no,
They're not pit fighting
they're just like
material.
pack uh travelers, right? They travel in a pack, and yeah, they're the hate breeders.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe one day we'll make a T-shirt of one of them. So all right, so now that I have this roughed, I'm
Cool.
going to move to pencils, where we'll just do a little more methodically, one panel at a time. And yeah, so another topic that I was laying in reserve for this week was, take a sip of tea, is so I saw the whole season of The Boys on Netflix, and yes, I saw the whole season
Three.
of
It's all
of
season three.
Homelander and all that. And
Okay.
this isn't a discussion just because it is a superhero, themed series, right? But it was actually
Comic book.
an indie comic before it got to the big screen. And a lot of people don't realize
Mm,
that, really big
mm,
franchises like Men in Black and The Crow were comic books before they hit the big screen. And somebody, had the vision of taking it and making it a very, very big budget series on Netflix, and really develop the characters very, very well. So yeah, are you up to date on um the
I am not. I've done
Oh,
one
okay.
and
Well, it's
two, but I
good.
have
The
not
good
had the
I'm
time to
not gonna
do three.
spoil, but it's
Oh,
really
great.
good. It's a lot more of the
No,
same
don't.
of what you're used to and what you like the series for. There's this world where superheroes are not only, really popular and powerful for like saving the day and and getting bad guys, but they're also the biggest media sensation because of a company called Vought, which I think might be a play on the name of the rich guy from Watchmen. Did you get that? Did you see that as a possible reference? Remember, it was like Vate or something.
Uh,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. No, I did not play that out, but now that you're putting it out
Yeah,
there, maybe somebody will
maybe it was a
contest it
play
or
off
back
of
you up
Vate
on it.
from Watchmen, but yeah, the Vought Corporation, and so earlier in the series we learned that they're manufacturing superheroes from birth using Compound V, and the antics ensue. There's a lot of like corporate double dealing and all this like kind of like fake aspect of the superheroes just doing stuff for optics, and when it's really time to do something for the people, they don't give a shit behind the scenes, so that's a running theme. And then in the last season they introduced this Nazi character, right? And that made for a very interesting season, which had a very, very like high flying culminating battle sequence at the very end, where all these twists and turns happened, right? And major changes to major characters. And then we come to this season, which is only 8 episodes, and it's kind of like picking up where the last one left off. In and it's a lot of the same kind of like character development stuff and relational stuff, and really well developed characters, great casting, and I would say really good special effects. So I'm definitely a fan of The Boys. The only thing I don't like about The Boys is the name. I think the name is misleading, and it has nothing to do with superheroes. It has to do with the camaraderie of the ragtag team of humans that are trying to battle these powerful superheroes, and they call them the boys. And a lot of times they allude to the their squabbles and differences, and then there are some better times when they all kind of see eye to eye, and they have they call themselves the boys. um, so yeah, you should look forward to seeing that when you can, and catching up, and I think you'll really like it. And that's
Cool. I just
no,
have to finish 8 seasons of Magnum PI.
no, really.
Seriously.
I have a story about Top Selling. I don't, but I'm surprised that you're checking out some cheesy old
Well,
sitcoms, like not even 80s. Isn't that the 70s?
nah, it starts 80. Starts 1980.
Oh, it starts in 80. Okay,
Um,
right. So
yeah.
80.
Well, I just we got back from taking a couple days off and ran the TV in the hotel room, and there was a heart to heart marathon. So
Now you're
Robert
talking.
Wagner and Stephanie Powers.
Right.
I love cheese and camp, but I don't like
Right.
intentional cheese and camp. I don't like when things are designed to be cheesy and campy. I think you just need to consciously make something as best you can, and unfortunately comes off cheesy and campy. That's my goal as an artist, and I hope to one day be able to strive and accomplish that. But to actually think that you can invent cheesy, I think it's almost near impossible. Somebody can dispute it, but because these shows they're just off the hook, um, you know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Do you see a difference between campy and kitschy?
Kitschy.
Because the kitschy can be very intentional.
How do you define
And
kitschy?
right, like kitschy means I mean, I always thought them as pretty much the same thing, campy and kitschy, but
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
actually a whole art form
it's like
called
a
kitsch.
self-aware, right, they call it self-aware of like, not trying to be the highest quality caliber, just going with the idea that lowbrow is good. It's commercially viable. People like it. They suspend disbelief, to be, when something's like lowbrow, they'll go with they'll go with it with you on a journey. So I think that's like
Well,
campy
last
and
episode of the episode before, I had mentioned a book, and it's Omwot, Omwot, Terror Assaulter, and it's by Benjamin Mara. And I'm right now pursuing a copy of his risograph, um, for one of the Omwat collections. I have to say, um, is on the verge of like mastering. I would call it kitsch. I wouldn't call it
right,
campy. Campy's like corny and comical in a sense. Like it just sort of falls off off its chair in trying to stabilize some kind of like cool sci-fi fantasy story. Um, where kitsch, it maintains right at that eye to eye level, like please take all seriousness off and sit back and enjoy the ride. And it's
right.
very hard to do that because it can get very pretentious very quickly, mostly because it will nod to other things to help that story along. Um,
So when it comes to something like WandaVision, Is that is that camp? It's definitely like an homage to like the Dick Van Dyke Show and early TV and stuff like that. and it is, going into these like really like, laugh track and
Nah,
corny,
see, I don't. Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I'm not. I'm talking about like action, like for instance, one of the greatest unsung movies next to Sylvester Stallone's Cobra is
right,
um, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. Now, you watch that now, and you will laugh half of the way. Every other 5 minutes, you're going to be laughing because it does have that corniness to it. But at the same time, it's still holding you down to, um, when I was 13 or 14 years old, this was the coolest thing in the world, especially when he comes emerging out of the tool shed and throws the circular blade out as a huge shuriken and takes one of
right,
these running at him full force from the mansion with machine guns blazing. So there's like, and he's all the bullets are missing him and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I get,
right.
I get it, but it's just it, for me, it reality should just disappear, and you should just sink into this imaginative place and suspend reality, enjoy, and then when it's done, just sit back and like contemplate that just really happened. Not could that really happen? It just that really happened.
Right.
So
Yeah, so
it's an
so
art
right,
form. It's an art form. I really do believe it's an up and coming art form.
yeah, well, we spoke about that last time about believability, and
Yeah.
when there's obvious holes in your science and technology, in your story, or there's or just like the probability of somebody evading so many bullets that are being sprayed from machine guns, as you cross a field, Um, so yeah, that becomes, I don't know if it's campy, kitschy, corny, maybe there's some other words, but that when they do that and they establish it, and they're very early, you see like this is going to be a movie where we're not going to sweat those kind of things. That's, I guess that's what we're referring to. And it definitely has this place. There, in storytelling, um you don't have, you were saying like, sometimes in indie comics people spend a lot of time worrying about continuity and realism, and I do it a lot here. Like I'm like, oh God, where's page 18? I need to see if there was a left-handed screwdriver or a right-handed screwdriver, so we try to do all that because you wonder, wow, is somebody really going to be calling you out on that in the letters
Yeah,
section?
but
Oh,
then
on page.
what's the I mean, what happens to you? Like what is the I mean, is it do you does your your story, your comic book just basically get canceled in a sense? Even if you're self-publishing it and somebody uh basically slams you for inconsistency in your scientific readability, you know.
Right.
I don't know if you've caught this other channel other than Cartoonist Kayfabe, but I just started really getting into Power Comics, the
Okay.
YouTube channel. If you're not doing it, um, I think you should check it out because it's it, it's it's speaking to me in like I said, there's uh, there's just a loss in good old fashioned enjoyment of suspended reality in getting a good decent action oriented comic book. That's been another thing you and I have talked about is just how much talking head stuff
Yeah.
you get thrown into very quickly, and then you're like, whoa, and then there's a page or two where there's some fisticuffs and stuff. Where back in the day, like they just had an interview with the guy who did a comic series called Vindicator, Holy something. Oh man, I can't remember. I'll put a link in the description below. Um,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic interview with this individual, this guy, Steve, with the host, and Benjamin Mara, who I was just saying he did Omwat and then really works with the whole campy, kitschy, you know, theme in comics, but doesn't degrade it, doesn't make fun of it. And to watch the two of them exchange conversations and really both of them trying to learn from each other um, is quite admirable and I think expansive of the comic book medium that you and I are involved in.
Right.
So
Okay.
but for the most part, just to kind of keep this thing out there because I'd like to keep talking about it as we keep moving along because I think Turbo Pit Fighter is sharing in some of this campy B movie style, post-apocalyptic movie, so on and so forth feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love the B movie stuff, and campy, I think, comes with dialogue. You know, like I'm sure the movie Commando, took off on these really kind of like melodramatic pronouncements like "now we walk," or like uh, you know
I'll
it's
give
your
you one. You ready? I'll
yeah,
give you one.
right.
I
You already
like you. I like you, Sully. That's why I kill you for last. So that was one of
right,
the
yeah,
characters where he says, Matrix, well, you said you never. I like you,
right,
Sully. I'll kill you
right,
last. Yeah. Or just the I'll be back.
right. That's that's
That's
that's
the quintessential what they chased with those movies, where those one line emphasis of
iconic, right?
yeah,
Iconic sound bites that
yeah,
that are used and become cultural references.
yep,
And that's what and so many movies, like intentionally try to create those. you know,
yep.
they might even like hand out like baseball caps, on it to try to like get get it going. Um, but yeah, I'm guilty as charged, definitely. I like campy, I mean, my first priority is clarity, like moving the story forward and then comes, character development. What would this character say in this situation, in their voice? That would also move the story along. Like one of the great Denny O'Neil tips was that dialogue a lot of times is very very fake, to move the story along. You sacrifice realism, to move the story along. So an example is like establishing shot of the Brady Bunch, and then you see Jan is on the couch, and in walks Cindy, and she goes, "Cindy, it's been 2 weeks since since you applied for the cheerleading squad." Nobody says that, right? Everybody in real life knows it's been 2 weeks. You don't recount that out loud, right? But in order to move the story along, you do stuff like that, right? And that's he says that's it's important. It's important to learn how to do it, and if you can do it artfully, even better. Like instead of saying it so obviously, you might be like, that was 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about? You make it part of like conversational, but storytelling is carried along, by pictures and dialogue, and then sometimes, if it's not enough, you have to put in a little narration panel, right? And then you're like, okay, the voiceless narrator, and and sometimes that's a vehicle, for your storytelling, like it's a character, telling, in past tense, this was when Frodo and I crossed the plains of Nevermore, and sometimes, it's the person themselves, sometimes it's just a disembodied voice, and then sometimes it would be like editor's note, right? See Fantastic Four number 36. It's like, hey, that's literally Stan Lee or Roy Thomas, breaking in and telling me, that the first appearance of the omnipotent one was in such and such issue, and you break the proscenium there. So Yeah, that's that's all part of the decisions that we make. And I like campy, I like stuff like that. Like I'll be back. I like it. And we're trying to do our version of it, here. And if you can put kind of like I said melodrama, but it's really like humor, right? It's like a funny way of, phrasing things. And make like Spider-Man, right? You know how Spider-Man, like, he was the really the first one, or maybe Fantastic Four, but all of the banter, so let's say early Marvel, right? The banter that was going on while they were, fighting bad guys, right? Would be like
Yeah, definitely between like Thing and Johnny.
right, exactly. And they would always like be insulting each other. They would always be having sport with each other. They would always be cracking corny jokes, like Wedhead and Shellhead and all this stuff, and it becomes this kind of like, running banter where, you know, it's like what happened was literally Jack Kirby turned in all these pages, and Stan Lee said, how am I going to put my fingerprint on this? And because he was a very facile writer, and he had lots of a great sense of humor, and he kind of like a 10,000-foot view of looking at things, right? And he, instead of being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is just another battle with Spider-Man and the Vulture," he said, "No, let's punch it up, and we'll have them, saying all these things to each other that, it might take the seriousness, of fighting away, but it made a real trademark, for Marvel dialogue, being snappy patter, all the time, and never wasting a word balloon on like ugh, that he got me in my stomach, like that hurt, like useless, information. So that's something that we take forward now into our post-apocalyptic story, and try to figure out what people would be saying. I love smart dialogue. I love smart dialogue. It's not like the first
Short and sweet, smart
short, yeah,
dialogue.
short,
Not this 30, not this 350 word count balloon trying to get me up to speed on whatever the hell you think
right.
where I'm supposed to be in your, that once again, it's playing with the form of, whether you're writing a story with illustrations or actually supplying dialogue for your comic book panel to panel illustrate, your story.
Yeah, and then your word balloons. Sometimes it's hard. Where you have to
Yeah.
situate them in a place where you're leading the eye, you're leading the reader from one sequence to another in the order that you want them to go, and you're not only having them look at your pictures, but also stop and read your words. And so it's a great blending of writing and art, in comics. That's why comics are just like so powerful when they're done right. But these things have to be thought out. They have to be thought out visually, and then thought out, like uh, literally, or literacy wise, and and you could really bring a lot, to a comic, like the Watchmen. Come on, that, like, it isn't like the first thing they thought of. It's like they really considered what everybody's saying, and all of those intricate storylines, and all those layers they had, to the story, and the characters. So we're trying to build something here, but whether or not it's successful, you don't know. Sometimes you can't stop and dwell on something. You just gotta move forward. You don't have a better idea, so you do the basic thing. But it's really good. It's really good before you ink things, to just like come back to it later and have a second pass, and then decide, oh yeah, maybe I want to change this dialogue here, or it just hits you. It just says, no, they wouldn't be saying that. They'll be saying, this is better.
Yeah, there's always editing. There's always editing going. With that being said, though, we're at the 45 minute. We're actually over the 45 minute, which we want to keep these episodes bite sized. So we're going to wrap up this episode. We want to thank everyone who's made it this
Yep.
far. Because it probably means two things: that you like our comic book and what we're discussing. And of course, down below in the comments, please leave them. Disagree with us, point us in the right direction, encourage us. We actually had a comment on, I believe it was
We had a
episode 10,
comment.
where an individual said, yeah, we had a comment. We've had, it's like, this is like the second or third comment. We're up to 12 subscribers. But they said they really liked our art and that they would like to do a pinup. So I encouraged in the reply, you can do a pinup and promote it on your YouTube channel, and we'll do a shout out, or send us the pinup and we'll review it here on
Live
Turbo
on the
Pit Fighters.
air,
So
right?
live like by a month or so before we actually put it up online. But with that being said, thank you very much, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yep. Ciao for now.